Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. I hope you enjoyed my brand new intro, courtesy of my friend Sachi. You guys have been saying for quite some time that I should update my intro, so while being offline for the last week due to a rather nasty mouse infestation playing havoc with my breathing, we worked on doing just that, and I am over the moon with the results, and I hope you like it too. Now on to the focus of this episode, the Seer. Well, the weapon itself was introduced back in Update 9 and was something a little bit different. It was a Grineer pistol, but it was fused with Orokin technology, eventually paving the way for the storyline of Vors using Orokin artifacts to his advantage. The actual weapon can be farmed by completing the Vors assassination mission on Tolstoy, and hoping that the RNG guards will give you the parts that you actually need. Now the weapon itself is just as interesting as its backstory. It's got a fantastic base damage of 84 with the damage type split equally between slash, impact and puncture, with 28 damage in each, making it pretty well rounded against all the factions. The weapon itself also has a pretty decent fire rate of 2 rounds a second, which might not sound particularly fast when compared to similar low tier weapons like the Lex, though it is in fact faster. The Seer is also not a hit scan weapon, which means that the projectile does have travel time. However, with the fastest projectile travel speed of any of the non-hit scan weapons, equal to that of the Lanka, the lead time on the shots is definitely minimal. Now the Seer is a weapon with many problems. Firstly, is one that can be a problem or a good feature to the weapon, its zoom level. The zoom on the Seer is huge, and depending on how you look at it depends on whether it's a disadvantage or not. The high zoom means that the Seer is more effective over longer distances, although the projectile travel time doesn't exactly help with that. But in addition to that, the zoom really does mean that the weapon becomes almost impossible to accurately aim in close quarters, really limiting the weapon to certain situations and scenarios, rather than for general use. The magazine size has a bit of an issue with 8 rounds, especially when you couple it with a pretty long reload of 2.8 seconds. It can make the weapon feel extremely clunky to use, and you spend half of the mission actually reloading. However, the major problem with this weapon, the thing I feel is its most limiting factor besides the zoom, is the 0% crit chance and no crit damage, which is something that is very rare in Warframe. And this is a serious limiting factor on this weapon. All weapons, no matter what their crit chance, benefit from their crit chance, and even if it only crits 1 in 20 rounds, it's still over double the damage of a normal shot, depending on the damage multiplier. So any weapon that has no crit at all really does suffer in that respect, and it does fall behind in terms of damage when you take that into account. Okay, so let's move on to starting to mod the Seer. Now it doesn't come with any polarities as standard, however we're going to add 6 in through former. We're going to add in the 3 V's and 2 dashes. Now with this build we're going to have a few mods that are going to remain the same between all 3. We've got Hornet Strike for damage, Barrel Diffusion for multi-shot, Lethal Torrent to help buff that fire rate as well as the multi-shot. We've also got Quick Draw on here to increase the reload speed, and Primed Heated Charge is going to be there throughout all 3 of our builds. Now for our Grineer build, we're going to go with Viral and Radiation, Pure Elemental, so Deep Freeze and Pathogen rounds for the Viral, Convulsion and Primed Heated Charge for the Radiation damage. For our Corpus build, we're going to go with Ice Storm, which you can also use on the Grineer build instead of the Deep Freeze. And Ice Storm is going to increase the magazine capacity, as well as giving you some of that ice damage as well, which we're going to combine with Deep Freeze and Convulsion, and all 3 of those are going to max out our magnetic damage, and we've got Primed Heated Charge on here for the extra heat damage as well. And for the Void and Infested build, we're going to go Pathogen rounds, Convulsion and Pistol Pestilence to bring up max corrosive damage, and again Primed Heated Charge for that extra heat damage against those Void units. Now as you can expect, you can do the build for Viral as well for the build, for the Void if you wanted to. You just switch out these mods here, and then you've got a Viral and heat damage if you're running Corrosive Projection in the Void. and then this will do the job just fine for you. Okay, so onto my recommendation. Do I think this weapon is worth the time, effort and resources invested into maxing it? Well, let's be honest here, no. The thing about the Seer is that if you removed the zoom, or made it a variable zoom, then actually, to be honest, it would be a pretty solid sidearm. It does pretty decent damage, and with lethal torrent on, it fires reasonably fast. With the reload mod on, the Seer feels a lot more usable. The Seer is actually a weapon that really caught me by surprise. Look, it's not going to take you up to the 40-minute mark in a tier 4 survival, but for derping around the star map or lower level void missions, the Seer can deal with it pretty well. Now the problem is that for 6th former, you expect to get something really good out of it, and the Seer will always be let down by that zoom. Yeah, it makes shooting at those longer range targets easier, but with a projectile weapon, in a game where long range doesn't come around very often, it just feels out of place. Bringing a Seer into a lobby, however, and getting comments about how I was mad for using it, and coming out with top damage, does make me smile from ear to ear. And you can make pretty much any weapon workable to a certain extent with enough former. But sometimes, when it's as fundamentally flawed as the Seer, then it's tough to make it work. Those of you that like to aim down sights are really going to hate this sidearm, especially at close range. However, those of you that are used to not doing that, people that use the Quantas a lot, this sidearm is more going to be tailored for you. Now the Seer is one of the sidearms you can pick up very early on, from the first boss in the game, and as an upgrade to your standard sidearm, it would be worth it without that zoom. But if you're at the stage of looking for a new sidearm when you're very early on in the game, then I would skip the Seer altogether and just go for the Magnus or the Basto. Those two sidearms are going to be much better for you, especially since you can upgrade into their dual version later, which are both fantastic weapons. The thing about the Seer is, while it might not be the most effective, it might not be the best sidearm, only capable of T4 exterminate at a push, it's quite a fun weapon to use. It's easy to land headshots, increasing its damage. It's fun to watch enemies be ragdolled, which seems to be a feature of the weapon I noticed from playtesting. And while there's no actual AoE effect to the weapon, even though it looks like it should have, each shot looks great as well. I can't in my right mind recommend this. However, it has seriously managed to surprise me, and quite frankly, it's won me over. I found playing with it fun. And if you can get into your, if you can get your head around that zoom, the incredible accuracy really rewards accurate fire, and the weapon in general is pretty amusing, especially since you can guarantee absolutely nobody else in your lobby will have one. And that is what sometimes we forget when we do these reviews. The fun factor is the most important thing. While I can't recommend putting all of these former on, I can recommend the weapon because I found it extremely fun to use. So in effect, the Seer, great damage, decent accuracy, decent lore behind it, and looks kinda cool, but seriously let down by a massively over the top zoom on the aim. It's a fairly solid sidearm, able to do some reasonable damage, but ruined by the ability to check whether a Grenadier Lancer is shaved or not that morning. As always guys, many thanks for watching. Normal service will resume this week, so please remember to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.